What does Hull City's avenue for success look like this season? Hello there and welcome back to the HullCityFanCentral YouTube channel, where today I'll be going through what I think Hull City's squad might want to look like if they're going to try and make the most out of a top form Ollie McBurney and a Ryan Giles who's looking like he's returning back to his former self, if not even better. So Hull City are currently sticking with the 4-2-3-1 layout, where they have, of course, two centre halves, two full-backs, two sort of CDMs within that midfield, a sort of attacking midfielder, two wingers, and of course Ollie McBurney up top. Some of the pieces are interchangeable, of course. You Ryan Giles, Ollie McBurney, Kyle Joseph for the most part, Charlie Hughes, Panda, Egan, and it's looking like Kyle, Lundstrom are kind of like nailed down into sort of the starting squad, certainly at the moment for Sergei Yakirovich. I would maybe look to change things around. Hull City started out the last game against Preston North End in a very poor manner. That was possibly the worst starting performance, worst first 45 I've seen for Hull City in quite some time. That in part was down to the starting team selection. Sergei Yakirovich has come out even saying that that wasn't the best starting lineup for his squad coming into that game. He says that he may have made some errors. Where I possibly would be looking for is maybe a bit of a bigger change to try and get the most out of the players who are putting in fantastic performances. Starting looking at Ryan Giles, he is looking absolutely wondrous down that left-hand side, to the point where I would maybe want to look for him to be getting up the field and getting into more attacking positions more consistently. Ryan Giles is not predominantly a left-back. He is out and out a left wing back. That's how he was playing in that top form season we saw him have at Middlesbrough a couple of seasons ago. That's what he's been playing majority of his career, and it's really been only since coming to Hull City where he's been playing that left back position, been having to rely on more defensively. And then in the moments where he's got forwards, he's looked very good. I mean, I can probably count on one hand the amount of balls that Ryan Giles has put in the box which have been bad balls. Every one of his crosses have looked fantastic. And five of his assists, all five of his assists have found Ollie McBurney as well. So that partnership is one that I'd like to see grow. So to maybe develop upon this, how would we get Ryan Giles in the best case scenario? We're going to look at the other side of the field as well. Louis Carroll's currently playing a right back for Hull City, starting right back since coming back from his injury. I would maybe look to change things up. Go for a 5-back. Now hear me out. How would Hull City adapt into this? Well, Cody Drammer would come in to play the right wing-back position for Hull City, and Ryan Giles would play the left wing-back position for Hull City. There, you are leaving with two players who can get up the field quite well. They can both whip balls into the box, and Hull City's wingers haven't necessarily been doing that this season. Of course, Liam Miller is just coming back, and we saw the goodness from Liam Miller, so this obviously might change as we sort of develop his fitness to get back into more of a starting role. Of course, Mohamed Baloumi, he's out for a couple of weeks as well, about 6 weeks or so until we see him back on the field after suffering his most recent injury. So how would Hull City adapt into this? Two wing backs, getting up the field, getting the crosses in. Centre halves wise, we've obviously got Charlie Hughes, who's going to be in there week in, week out. John Egan's been looking quite well, and congratulations to John Egan. He's been called up to Ireland's senior camp for the upcoming international fixtures for the first time since 2023. So well done to John Egan. So you'd have him in there. Of course, you've got Semi Ajayi, who's just come back off the injury, was on the bench as an unused substitute against Preston North End. And of course, you've got a spare Louis Coyle, who I'm sure would not be too far of the realm of possibility to, in a 5-back, play a right centre-half. And therefore, you can utilise him in sort of a right back position into more of a back 3 lineup with the wingers of wing backs getting up the field more. So I'll possibly be looking at to play that back 5. Of course, if you are looking to play the back 3 as is, back 4 I should say as is, that could also work. But what you would be looking for, you would be maybe looking for more attacking possibilities, certainly from Ryan Giles, but possibly from both sort of wing-back, full-backs in this sort of case. Moving up the field, I'm liking John Lundstrom. Do not change him from that CDM partnership. Amir Hadzayemetrovic didn't have a very, very good game last time out, and we've not really seen him take full grasps of what he is capable of so far in the English game. He's looked all right, yes, in his start to his time at Hull City, but not being a absolutely wondrous pick in that midfield. Whereas you possibly could be looking for Hull City to make a little bit of a change there. Go for Lundstrom being in that CDM position, and then maybe replacing Amir Hadzayemetrovic, or even using Amir Hadzayemetrovic and allowing that position to being a bit more of an attacking, moving the ball through, more of a transitional player within that midfield to allow the ball to progress from defence and through into more of the attacking midfield, attacking departments, where that may be a case where things might be getting a little bit stagnated at the moment in that sort of transitional period, especially what we saw against Preston North End in that first half. So maybe use Hadzayemetrovic in that department. Of course, Regan Slater came on, was productive in that department when he came on for the second half against Preston North End. And of course, you've got other players that come and fill in there. Elliot Matazo will be back soon enough. He's, I think, scheduled to come back about December time for him, so not far away from getting him back on the field for Hull City. Of course, you've got Regan Slater, as I say, Casey Palmer, Matt Crooks will hopefully be back sooner rather than later. So you've got, of course, players to rotate through there, so I wouldn't be necessarily worried on that department. And, of course, then moving further up the field, I mean, I'd play Joe Gelhardt at that number 10 position. He would be starting. The fact that he changed when he came on the field and went into that position, of course, he provides a bit of versatility. Out on the wide, I'm liking what Kyle Joseph's doing at the moment. Of course, he's a little bit of one of them players where he's either using his work rate to the best of his ability, or he's using it and it's not getting the production necessarily that it so desperately needs. Of course, out on the right wing, it's going to be a bit of a hit and miss case at the moment until we sort of get a solidified down with Liam Miller getting back into the starting line, which we probably would see after the international break. Of course, he's fit enough to go away on international duty with Canada, and of course was fit enough to play 45 minutes. I don't necessarily see him starting a game for Hull City until after the international break, which of course would be that away trip to Birmingham City. So maybe it might be this weekend we see a filler. Maybe David Akintola coming in to start out on the right wing. Maybe Cody Drama once again, although I don't think Hull City would be wanting to explore that experiment once again. So it might be a bit of a sort of a sliding pieces around there. What I maybe would be looking for Hull City to do, if they are maybe encouraging the wing backs to get up more, encouraging the full backs to get up the field more, we're maybe even looking to have a two-striker partnership. Now, this is something that Hull City haven't really explored this season. Ollie McBurney has been up there on his own. And where you could possibly be looking, Joe Gelhardt coming up to replace sort of a right winger and make a front two in that aspect. You could look, of course, Enis Destan. We're unsure on how much he could sort of provide to the squad. His knee is strapped up at the bit at the moment, but he has been coming on, playing, being a substitute in a few games so far for Hull City this season. Of course, Kyle Joseph, he's predominantly a striker, so there is options there for Hull City to go to have someone play off Ollie McBurney, which A, would allow Ollie McBurney to have a bit more free range up top. He wouldn't be so necessarily man-marked, and we've seen him man-marked, especially this season, at points by two opposing defenders, which has really limited Ollie McBurney's game down in them cases. Of course, he's still been a very, very predominant factor up forward for Hull City, and has been possibly the best striker in the Championship this season for anyone, really, and possibly even the best striker for Hull City. Rolling back the years, I mean, he's already scored more goals than Hull City's top goal scorer last season, João Pedro, and that's coming 8 games into the season, so fantastic stuff there for Ollie McBurney, and you really wanted to utilise what he has for the squad and utilise it in a bit of a bigger capacity. Would a double striker partnership work for that? I mean, we'd only really know if it is tested, but I do think it maybe is time to maybe look and explore moving away from the 4-2-3-1 that Sergei Kievich has been rolling out since the start of the season, and maybe looking for not fully changing it around, but one or two of the changes that I've suggested to really utilise the players that are playing very, very, very good top quality football, and looking for a bit more of a competitive lineup from top to bottom, where you can at the moment see a few holes. Of course, holes will constantly be there as injuries happen, as players go through the ebbs and flows of a season. But I would maybe be looking for Hull City to try and adapt a little bit. We talked about the adaptability that Sergei Kirich wants, and I think now is going to be the big testing time, especially with the Sheffield United team coming in this weekend that are not the best at the moment. They've only got, 3 points this season, 1 win, the rest of them losses, and of course Chris Wilder won't be in the dugout for them after getting the red card in the midweek fixture, so possibly Hull City will be in a bit of a better case scenario to face off against the Blades in the Yorkshire Derby. And to try and get the best case scenario out of this one change or 2 change to the starting lineup, as I've said, might be that case. Of course, Ollie McBurnie will be looking to grab a goal. John Lundstrom would be looking to maybe get a good performance and even grab a goal against Sheffield United, as it's reportedly seeming behind the scenes that John Lundstrom or Sheffield United fans aren't the happiest with John Lundstrom, so maybe he'll be looking to try and put a quieter down on the Sheffield United fans. And of course, Ollie McBurnie, he will probably grab a goal in this game. I mean, it's stupid for him to not predict him to grab a goal in a game for Hull City at the moment. I think he's working on just under 1 goal average per game, and of course he's been playing near enough every game for Hull City this season. Of course, he's been involved with every game for Hull City since signing, so get him the coverage, and by doing that, change up a little bit. Give Ryan Giles a bit more expose down that left-hand side so he can get more attacking balls into the box, and maybe change it around a little bit so Ollie McBurnie isn't so overly worked up top, and he can maybe last out full 90 minutes, and you can have an Ollie McBurnie at 100% for 90 minutes. And these are the things that Hull City, of course, will have to toy and test around with. But it is going to possibly come down to the case where Hull City are going to have to make 1 or 2 changes. And I think the time is now, especially after the abysmal opening 45 minutes that we saw against Preston North End. The second 45, when the changes were made and the lineup was changed around, that helped massively. And hopefully that can follow through into Hull City's test against Sheffield United. Of course, I will have my preview and prediction video out tomorrow ahead of the game at the MKM Stadium against Sheffield United. So make sure you stay tuned on the channel by liking and subscribing to keep up to date with everything Hull City, as it's possibly going to be a season full of highs, with Ollie McBurnie and Ryan Giles being at the forefront of every City fan's mind. So stay tuned on the channel by liking and subscribing to keep up to date with everything Hull City, and I'll see you in the next video. Up the Tigers!